In this video, we will be learning about well-defined sets. So well-defined sets are going to be sets to where you have the definition of the set and you can clearly tell what elements belong in the set and what don't belong in the set. Usually these definitions for these sets mean that it has to be based on a fact and it cannot be something opinionated. So for this first lecture problem, it says determine if the group of all Nobel Prize winners in physics is a well-defined set. If somebody wins a Nobel Prize in physics, then that's not going to be something that's an opinion. That's going to be something that's a fact. So knowing that information, we can say that this set is a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer. For the second lecture problem, it says determine if the group of all ancient trees is a well-defined set. If a tree is ancient, that's something that's opinionated. There's not really a definition for ancient. Ancient for somebody could be 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, and so on. So since we know that ancient is something that's subjective, we can say that this is not a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer. So for this third lecture problem, it says determine if the group of a collection of large apples is a well-defined set. So here, our set needs to be the collection of large apples, but a large apple is going to range from person to person, and there's no clear definition on what you consider a large apple. So knowing that, we can say that this is not a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer. For this fourth lecture problem, it says determine if the group of the founding members of the rock band The Rolling Stones is a well-defined set. So founding members means the people who started the band, which can clearly be established and identified. So therefore, we know that this is going to be a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer. Hey everyone, before we get back to the video, I just wanted to give a reminder to like the video if you enjoyed it, leave a comment down below if you have anything to say about the video, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with some of the content I post, and to turn on post notifications to be notified when I upload. Thank you. Now let's try to do some practice problems to help us get better at identifying well-defined sets. So for this first practice problem, it says determine if the following collection represents a well-defined set. The names of all the characters in the novel To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. So the names of all the characters, that's going to be something that's a fact and not opinionated. So therefore, we know that this is going to be a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer. So for the second practice problem, it wants us to determine if the top 5 most influential leaders of the 20th century is a well-defined set. So our elements need to be the top 5 most influential leaders of the 20th century. Influential is going to be something that's opinionated. There's no way to measure influential as a fact. When you ask person to person, you're going to get different answers on what you consider influential. So knowing that this is opinionated, we can say that this is not a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer. So for this third practice problem, it wants us to determine if a group of vintage cars that can be restored to their original condition is a well-defined set. Vintage is something that's opinionated and not a fact, and also the original condition is going to vary from person to person, and that's something that's also opinionated. So knowing this information, we can say that this is not a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer. So for this fourth practice problem, it says for us to determine if the titles of all albums released by Taylor Swift in 2022 is a well-defined set. So we can clearly establish that the albums released by Taylor Swift in 2022 are going to be a fact. Knowing this information, we can say that this is going to be a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer. So for this fifth practice problem, it wants us to determine if the group of all fish that can ride a bicycle is a well-defined set. So this might seem like an odd set because there's no fish that can ride a bicycle, but we still need to analyze if this is a well-defined set. So the word ride is going to be opinionated. Some people might think ride a bicycle as in BMX and being really good at riding a bicycle, but some people can also think as long as it can move the bike, then that's considered riding. So knowing that ride is going to be a subjective term in this case, we know that this is not going to be a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer. So for the sixth practice problem, it wants us to determine if the group of Nobel Prize winners in literature who have published more than 10 books is a well-defined set. So we can see here that Nobel Prize winners in literature who have published more than 10 books are going to be something that's a fact and not something opinionated. So knowing this information, we can say that this is a well-defined set. So that's going to be your answer.